Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Man Cave Chronicles. Your host, James Dean Littlejohn. Man Cave Chronicles. How the devil are you on today? Today, Sunday for me. I don't know what time you'll be listening to this, but hopefully you're okay. How the devil are you? Hopefully you are well. Hopefully you're smashing it through. There's a lot of hopefullys in here, but yeah, it's an enduring time at the moment, especially in the UK. I'm presenting here from the UK, and yeah, we have been in this is 40. I think it's 45 days of continuous rain, which has been relentless. I'm not going to lie. Anybody that suffers from seasonal affect disorder, I absolutely feel sorry for you because it is a ball ache. It is just shit weather. We had sleet the other day. I was literally astounded. I was like sat there going, I don't know what to do here. But anyway, I'm here. I have finally made it. I didn't turn up last week, which was absolutely appalling to me. And I talk all the time about being consistent, and that's something I haven't been for the last couple of weeks. I'm not lying to you. I think. Although I get an element of this seasonal affect disorder, I think we all do. I think it's not unique to me by any stretch of the imagination. I think we all feel it, especially in the UK. It can be horrible times, especially when it's relentlessly dark, relentlessly cold, and relentlessly raining. It's just not ideal. There is nothing that is enjoyable in the UK when it rains. It is absolutely abysmal, and it certainly gets us down, doesn't it? You're trying to get through the passageway of life. You're trying to enjoy life. You're trying to invigorate life as much as possible, and just do whatever you can. But it is just enduring when it's just abysmal weather. I hate it. I can't stand it. What I am going to try and do today is avoid a moan fest because I have been moaning a lot lately, and not in the nice way. I can assure you, I have been moaning about life, pissing and moaning since the start of 2026. It has just been relentless. 2026, the month of January, was basically 2026 in one, and then all of a sudden, bosh! February is nearly over. We're in the third week of February already. What happens? It's the first month drags for about 9 years, and then the second month you're like shit, catches you by surprise. It's almost disappears. Noting it's only a couple of days shorter in February, but those couple of days they make a big difference. But yeah, it has just been relentless. And do you know what? I'll be honest. I'll be brutally honest with you, as I always try to be on here. It's been hard work. I'm not. The start of the year has been hard work. I had a cheeky session in the clock and balls, here the party session, and I had a couple of the boys round, and we had some darts. We were playing some darts up there, and just having a good time, just to catch up, trying to get the year started. And it was okay. It was okay. I will say that I drank for the first time in 9 weeks, and I didn't enjoy it. I think drinking for me is done. Well, I'm loose. I'm loose how I say this, but for me, enjoyable. The juice is not worth the squeeze anymore. The hangover, the tiredness, the depression. When you're already sort of trying to smash through life anyway, I'm 45 this year, and life is tough. I'm not going to lie. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible, but it is not. It is not. It is not. It is the beast that keeps giving, giving. I tell you, it is not meeting me in the middle. I can assure you of that. Life is literally not meeting me in the middle. And I'll talk about some of those little pressures I've had this last couple of weeks today, just to sort of get some food for thought for you, really, as I naturally try and get into the flow of this. Like I say, it's been a couple of weeks. I haven't really been in the mood, so to speak. So I'm just also looking as well that is that it doesn't normally show me the full picture, and it's all open. Sorry, I'm looking at this camera here thinking, is it recording? I was just checking it was recording, but it is recording. I was just sat there going, it doesn't normally show me that the full spacious picture on the camera, but it is for some reason. But hey, I'll take it. I'm just going to roll with it anyway. Do you know what? It's literally what I'm doing at the moment. I'm rolling with life. It is an absolute nightmare. And like I said, it's got me down a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It has got me down the last couple of weeks. I'm keeping my head above the water. I'm treading water, as I've been telling everyone at work, but it does get a bit difficult. I've had some curveballs that life has chucked at me through being a dad, that I didn't expect, and to be honest, they were huge financial curveballs that I didn't expect. Which make you question a lot, because you think to yourself, I've got to try and do what I can as a father. It's my it's my it's my responsibility, take accountability. I had the kids, I brought the kids in. I try and help them as much as I can, but that does get hard work. It really, really does get hard work. And the last couple of weeks have certainly challenged me as being a dad. Not in the sense that I do, that I'm not happy about it. I always relish in the fact that it's very rewarding being a dad, but at the same time, I'll be honest, I didn't expect some of the curveballs that have been chucked at me the last couple of weeks. And I've had, as you probably heard, if you've been listening to my podcast, I've had some curveballs chucked at me that I didn't expect. Even though I pulled out the green tea. I don't know if you can see that. I'm kind of a big deal. That's a present from my mate from Christmas. Many leather bound books. I've got green tea today, so I'm trying to be healthy. But yeah, I went on a little tangent there, but yeah, so I had a little party. A couple of boys, the boys came around. We had a couple of drinks, and it was okay. We've got to chew the fat, put the world to rights, and that's what it's about. It's about us getting together and ultimately just talking about the shit that's going on in life. And I think it's a way of sort of validating that we're all going through shit. To some sort of degree, we're all. So it sort of makes us feel a little bit happier when someone else is pissing and moaning about life, and you're sat there going, okay, maybe my life isn't as bad. It's almost like the easiest way to say it is when you feel like you're overweight, for instance, and then you go and watch a fat program, and you go, actually, I'm not overweight. But I will say the positivity in the fact that you watch someone losing weight, you see where they've started and see where they're in. So there's lots of positivity in that. But also when you feel a bit sort of frumpy and you watch someone and you think, well, actually, I'm not that bad. It puts life into perspective, because we can all piss and moan about the littlest things. And I get this often at work, be it work or in life and anywhere really, to be fair. And they're sat there, and you'll hear someone pissing and moaning at me about being a fucking parent or being a husband or something, or a son or whatever. And I'm sat there going, fucking hell, mate. Let's put it in perspective. It's fucking hard, mate. We're all enduring it. Let's just try and help each other get through it as much as we can. But yeah, I've had some curveballs chucked at me this week, and I'm going to sort of, like I said, I digress into those. It's taken me a while. I can feel it's taken me a while to get into the regular drumbeat of talking, to be fair, which is a bit unusual for me, because normally I don't stop talking when I do this. This is my enjoyable zone. And it does annoy me in my eyebrow. I keep looking at that, which I'm conscious about, because I'm looking at you and looking at there. But anyway, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. So what can I say? You're sat there going, what the fucking hell are you on about? What's your tangent? What's been going on? What's been going on that you've endured? Well, I'll tell you what's been going on, actually. And when I say financial burden, and this is more about being a parent, I suppose, because I don't know where to draw the line, to be honest. I've got 3 daughters. My middle daughter is she's the one that's been challenging me in a kind way, and I'm not saying she's challenging me in that way. She's not. There's an element of stupidity that's been going on, but at the same time, maybe maybe I'm being harsh, and maybe there was a bit of responsibility on myself. So what am I talking about? Fucking hell, just talk about it, James. So I've had financial impact. I've had a massive. So basically, my daughter, she's 18, almost 19. She needs a car for college. She needs a car for a job and everything else, and getting around. The freedom. She's passed the driving test. We've helped her get through the driving test. We've helped towards her insurance, because insurance is like absolutely crippling. We're talking £1,000 plus for insurance nowadays for children to get onto the road. So you want them to get on the road. You want them to feel the freedom of having a car, but that comes at a cost, not at a cost that I would expect. And to be honest, I think I've helped out my children. I've certainly helped out my children more than my parents ever helped me, and that's not in a negative way. That's just I'm not berating my parents for that, but I'm just saying, I've done a lot more than is expected already. So, or not expected, but that I received. So I think I've gone above and beyond here. So, for me, and I'm still finding it hard. So, basically, we bought her a car, or she got a car from us. We gave her the car, which meant we had to buy another car. To try and help her to get her onto the road. The insurance was like 1,100 quid, and that was with a black box and everything. So, but then what she did was about 4 or 5 weeks ago, I think it was, she decided to cost us. Well, she didn't decide to cost. We had a repair that cost us £1,000, and that's not a repair that I expected. I didn't expect to have £1,000 in my bank, and that is basically my savings completely and utterly wiped out in these 2 instances that have cost me this money. And basically, what we're saying is she basically wasn't starting her car correctly in the morning, which in turn then knackered up the fuel pump, or we thought was the fuel pump. Transpired it wasn't. It was how she was starting the car. So we spent £900 repairing replacing the fuel pump, and it was only until it came to light how she was starting her car in the morning. So basically, it's been frosty. What we say to people is, get in, start the car, let the car run. You shouldn't really do this actually. If you're looking at, I think there's something that says you shouldn't leave your car running, but we do because we're all humans. We want our car to run so we can get in it and defrost it. So I said to her, defrost the car. Normal expectation is you start the car, let the car run, put the front dehumidifier or the Mister fucking air fan shit, internal fan, Bosch, one of those. Can't even think what it's called. Put the fan on, basically, internal fan on, put it on the windscreen, let it clear. Give it 5-10 minutes, jump in your car, and you should be able to drive off. Nice and safe. Clear windscreen. Happy days. Not getting stopped by the rozzers. So that's what I was expecting to happen. But then every time she started the car, and bear in mind this has gone for about 3 or 4 weeks, start the car, she would get about 10 yards down the road, and then it would stop, completely and utterly stop, like literally 10 yards, literally blew a fuse. So we put it into the garage, cost us about a couple of £100 for like a diagnosis. And they basically came back to us and said it was this, this, and this. Wasn't this. I spent about 3 or 4 hours in the man cave researching what I thought it was. And then went back to him and said, I think it might be the fuel pump, but I'm not really sure. Everything that, because I asked her outright, are you getting in, starting the car, humidifying, doing all the good stuff, letting it run, blah, 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 blah. She assured me she was doing everything that I'd said, and almost sort of came to me and said, almost like I was fucking saying she was stupid. And I'm not saying she's stupid. I just want to know, for me as a parent, I can eliminate things. I can say, right, this has been done, this has been done. So it's like a process of diagnosis. So for me, and that's how my brain works, I go, well, if you've done this, this isn't this, you've done this right, you've done this step right, you've done this step right, it must be this. So it's my way of, let me turn this off, sorry. It's my way of interpreting things. So it's my way of trying to deal with things. I like to know the nitty gritty of stuff. She'd assured me that everything was going right. So, I was a bit befuddled was the word I'm going to use here, befuddled. And I sat there and I was like, well, if you're doing everything right, and it's and it's blowing his car, it's only getting 10 yards. What the fuck's going wrong? So we were like, well, it must be the fuel pump. It mustn't be getting fuel because we were getting spark, everything else. I'm not going to go into the mechanical side of things, but we were getting spark. So it must be fuel because that's basically what engines run on, spark and fuel. So, and power, obviously, so the battery, I keep saying that as well. Battery. There's a T in it, James. The battery was fine. So I checked everything and went, it must be the fuel pump then. So we replaced the fuel pump. That was £900. And then basically replaced the fuel pump. And then the first flash frost that came, which was about 3 or 4 days later, we had exactly the same. And I was like, what? I don't know what it is. We've done everything. There's nothing left to do. Can I just ask how you're fucking starting the car? And she just went, I'm starting the car properly, and walked off, like typical teenager fucking type mentality. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to get anywhere with this. But you want a car. You're telling me you want a car, but you've just cost £1,100 and we've still not got it diagnosed. I just want to make sure the basics are right. Anyway, but fast forward about 2 hours and I was sat out here and my wife came in to me and she said to me, James, I need to have a quick chat. And I was like, oh, okay, then here we go. Transpires, my lovely, lovely fucking daughter decided to get in the car. What she was proceeding to do was get in the car. She'd put the key card in so the car was on, but not started. Key point there. On, not started. Okay, key point, remember that. But what did we say at the start? We said, make sure it started because the engine will create heat through the combustion process, blah, 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 makes it nice and warm. The heat goes through the engine, cools it down, la, 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 and we get nice warm air coming through and defrosts the windscreen nice and easy. That's what our expectation is. She wasn't. She was getting in the car, putting the car on, putting the fan on warm, and then she would walk away for 15, 20 minutes. She said, I'd come back 15, 20 minutes, and it was still frosted up. But I'd left it for 15, 20 minutes. I was like, okay. And then what she was doing is this is a diesel. So what is a diesel relies on a glow plug because it doesn't start the same way as a petrol. So a petrol will run through a spark. So it has a spark plug, HT leads connected to distributor, and then you crank it over, and then it creates a spark. All this sort of jazzy stuff, all this good mental stuff happens, and then it creates a spark. But we don't rely on compression and heat so much at the start process because it's a more flammable product than it is diesel. Diesel works more on load and a little bit of heat in the chamber, so it relies on glow plugs. She wasn't doing that. What she was doing was, and I'm giving you a little bit of a mythology here. What she was inherently doing was she would sit in the car. and she'd come back 20 minutes later, yeah, and then she'd press the button, and the button wouldn't start. And she wasn't even putting her foot on the brake, and you must put the foot on the brake because it tells you on the dashboard, put foot on brake before starting car. You know what I mean? So she wasn't doing that. She was pressing all sorts, and she was pumping the fucking fuel, and she was like, I'm not getting anywhere, and she was like, it's not starting. It wouldn't start. And then eventually what she would do is take the key card out, put the key card in, which, what does that do? Press the button, the glow plug's cut in. So she'd start the car, glow plugs cut in, she'd drive 10 yards, and it basically, she's flooded the fucking engine full of shit. So what I said to you at the start of the little snippet here, the little bit I'm talking about, are you doing the basics right? No, she wasn't doing the basics right, which then fucked up the detailed stuff because she wasn't doing the basics right. So I said, well, okay then. So if you do the basics right, we shouldn't be here then. And it transpires we didn't need to be here. There was nothing wrong with it. It was how she was starting the car. Okay, so that's that. So this is cost me £1,200. Okay, just give you a ballpark figure. Fast forward 2 weeks, which was last Saturday, when I was supposed to be doing the podcast on the Sunday. Normally I'm full of vigor. I'm not. I'm on green tea, so you can tell I'm trying to be healthy. I'm wetting the whistle there just to keep myself going, because I'm in full flow now. And I can feel the sparks are flying in my head. It's taken me a while to get out of my slumber zone from the day. Sunday, the day of rest, as they say. But it has been a day of rest. I've been snoozing all day, which is why I'm half fucking knackered. But yeah, so fast forward 2 weeks. So we spent £1,200. Car's still not running, and then all of a sudden she goes, but we've got it all good, so now it's good. It goes in for an MOT last Friday, flies through the MOT, fucking brilliant. We're here because we've had a couple of issues before that. We've had the wiper motor go twice, and we've had a couple of other little issues go along the road. And I think we had a front suspension strut went, so I replaced that. So I've done as much as I can. So we've had a few things go the last year. She's only been driving for about 7 months, and in this last 7 months, we've had fucking issue after issue. Okay, never had this. We had the car 4 years, never had an issue. All of a sudden, gets to the car, it's now got issues left, right, and centre. But I will say, every issue has always reverted back to a user error. I'm going to say that now. So this is where I'm struggling now as a dad, because I'm asking you to do the basics. If we can get the basics right, I know it won't cost me money, and I know that I don't need to spend money. But because she's not being open and honest with me and goes on defensive mode, it's all my fucking fault. And then I'm having to spend money to really try and rectify things that don't need to be rectifying, because we could have resolved them from doing the basics. Okay, so that's where we're at. So you can feel the passion, the fucking spirit coming out of my fucking voice now, and I'm loving being a dad. I'm telling you now, I'm excited. It's a gift that he's given. So fast forward 2 weeks, we've done all this, gone for an MOT, went for an MOT, and then this was last Friday, and then on Saturday she goes, right, I'm going to take the car out. So, okay, where are you going? Just make sure you're okay. I'm going to go to the cinema. All right, brilliant. Goes to the cinema in the evening. I get a phone call at fucking 11:30. 11:30 Saturday night, 11:30. I'm going to keep saying 11:30 at night. I'm ready for bed. I'm going to bed. I stayed awake till 11:30. I was just literally going to bed. In fact, I think I was brushing my teeth, actually, to go to bed. And I get a little nod from my wife, again, saying, Tegan's just rung. She's in town. The car won't start. I was like, what the fuck do you mean the car won't fucking start now? It was fine yesterday. It was fine this morning. What do you mean it won't start? So we fast forward, I'm not going to say fast forward. 15 minutes later, we drive into town, chuck on some joggers, go into town, go into the car park. Anyway, when I arrive, she says the car won't start. It just clicks, which says to me, the battery's dead. And I know we've had some issues with the battery before. I had to charge it a little while ago, just because it had been sat around while we were waiting. So I say a little while, but it was about 8 months ago. It'd been sat around waiting for her to pass a driving test, basically. So it wasn't getting as much use. So I had to take it off, charge it, no problems at all, put it back on. So I in the back of my mind, I thought, okay, well, maybe the battery's died. It's a little bit of a cold evening. I don't know. So I'm spitballing here. So as we drive into the car park, I see her in the car with the fan on. Yeah. The battery's dying. So you've put the fan on and the lights are on. And I was like, why are the lights on? And I thought to myself, I know the Renault Clio, it's got automatic lights with the button. So why would you have the lights on? They never would come on, and you're just killing the battery. You're sat in there with your fan on, trying to keep warm without the engine running, and the lights on, and the battery's dead. I'm like, I can't make this up. I'm astounded. I don't know what to do with this. So I stood up and said, why have you got your fucking lights on? And she was like, it won't start. And it was almost like instant defensiveness. I was like, get out the fucking car, let me have a look. So I get in the car, and lo and behold, press the button, and he goes click, 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 click. And then I sit there and I go, and I'm just sort of like, so I open the bonnet and I'm frustrated because I'm tired, it's late at night, I shouldn't really be doing with this. And then I'm sat there and I'm going, right, okay, so okay, we're going to have to fucking jumpstart this. It's the only thing I can think of. And in the back of my mind, I'm going, can you jumpstart things? I don't know whether you can with modern day cars because, you know, they've all got this, all the ECU and all the electronics and everything. I thought, fucking hell, I don't know what to do here. But I'm not going to sit here and leave the car here. She'd parked it like she stole it anyway. So I sat there and I went, right, we've got any jump leads? We haven't got a tow rope. We haven't got jump leads. So I was like, who's got jump leads? Because I know someone's got jump leads because I've bought jump leads for all of us to have a set of jump leads. She was like, oh, Ellie's got jump leads. Ellie's in bed. So I had to get my my eldest daughter, to get out of bed and bring the fucking jump leads to me in town. So I'm pissing people off left, right, and centre here for my middle daughter. That's what we're getting the crux of. And as I'm stood there waiting for, so I know my daughter's going to be about 20 minutes because you've got to get up, get changed, come down, get the fucking, get to the car, etc., etc. I know 20 minutes. And I'm sat there and I'm going, right. And I'm in the car and I'm going around and I look at the light stalk and I go, why is it on dipped beam? It should be on auto. And when I clicked it to auto, all the lights went off because the key card was out. And I said, I got out the car and I said, did you leave your fucking lights on? And she went, yes. I was like, okay. So you've left the lights on for 3.5 hours? She was like, yes. Okay. Can I ask why you've left your lights on when they're automatic and you don't need to actually physically touch them? She said, well, I was trying to get hold of Alicia when she was coming out of the house, and I was a bit excited for her to come out of the house, so I tried flashing her, as in with the flashes, the lights. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, main beam. I was like, oh, okay. She goes, but they wouldn't work. And I said, why wouldn't they work? She went, because the car was off. So I turned the lights on to flash. I was like, but that won't have worked. I said, that would have just turned the lights on, but they would have only gone to side lights unless you press the engine on. But she'd already fucked around this. So she'd left it on, gone down to town, parked up, walked out, gone for 3.5 hours, 4 hours, I think it was, because she had a meal and then went to the cinema. So 4 hours I sat there. So I said, okay, well, this is no surprise I'm sat here. At least we know that we've narrowed it down to the battery's dead. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So I know the battery's dead. I looked in and the battery was black. It had a little tiny circle on it. I think if it's white, it's completely gone. If it's green, it's good. If it's black, it's died, but you need to recharge it basically. So I was like, well, I got to get us home. I don't know what to fucking do here. And I was sat there in the car park going, I'm not even sure. I don't even know if I'm insured to drive this car. Zoe was, my wife was sat there trying to look and see if I was insured, to make sure I was insured. So I was like, I'm going to have to jump start it. I'm going to have to drive it. And I'm just going to have to get it home. I'm going to have to hope for the best that I can get it home with a jump start. So anyway, my daughter arrives in. It's got a bit frosty in this environment here because I've had a borderline go at my fucking daughter for being a knob and literally getting out of a car and not checking the fucking lights. I also opened the door with the lights on and it gives an audible noise. And I went, what's that noise? She said, well, it stopped when I shut the door. I was like, okay, well, that's good then, isn't it? It stopped when you closed the door. So it's good. You didn't think there's an alarm there. Something's happening. So we've missed all of these mitigations for stupidity, haven't we? We've missed every mitigation for stupidity, and here I am at fucking midnight trying to jumpstart a car. Jumpstart the car. Anyway, so forward start, jumpstart the car. Jump-started it, told them to fuck off. Beeline off, I'm going to get this car home to as far as I can. And anyway, so I was driving through it, and my wife hadn't confirmed I was insured. I was like, do you know what? I don't know. If I get pulled over, I just want to go to bed. I'm just tired. I want to get in. So I just like, as I drove off, she rung me through the stereo and said, yes, you're insured. I was like, okay. So anyway, drive in. No, she said, I tell a lie. She said, I'm still checking you're insured. I was like, okay, well, I'll tell you what then. I've got it going. We drove up. I've cleared the screens. I've parked up. I know it's fucking good to go. Get in the car. She can drive it. And she can drive it home and then just get us home. Anyway, I jump into our car. They jump into their car. And then we go home. And then we get to the top of this hill and then start going down this hill towards where I live. And it's a fucking steep hill. Just at the top, it dies. Completely dies. Like stops. Like fucking... She puts the brakes on. I was like... So I pulled in behind. I was like, I don't know what's going on here. What the fuck's going on? And basically what happened was... I'm going to skip to the end here because I don't want to bore you too much because I want to go into the fucking mental health of this fucking whole scenario. Fast forward, car started, pushed it fucking into a lay-by. So I had to push it back up the hill on my own because my daughter stood there and goes, I don't know what to push. The fucking car! And then so I pushed the car up the hill, pushed it into a lay-by. Next morning I say, right, we're gonna have to get a battery. Do you know what? I was so fucked off. I was like, I'm not gonna take this battery off and charge it and leave it here for fucking 2 days in this lay-by randomly. I said, and I'm not gonna tow the fucking thing. Just I'm going to go down tomorrow. You're going to spend £145 and you're going to get a fucking battery. She was like, I haven't got £145. I'm going to go down tomorrow, spend £145, and then I'm going to buy you a battery. All right? So I put this battery on anyway. Put a battery on, lights up like a Christmas tree because cars need fucking registering and all that, the new battery and all this sort of stuff. Take it down. Anyway, I'm going to fast forward a couple of days, found out that basically by jump starting it, I'd knackered this thing called a battery monitoring system, BMS, or as they call it, the Intelligent Battery Monitoring System. I think it's called Intelligent Battery Monitors. No, IBS. IBS, that's it. Because my wife turned around and went, I think it's the IBS, but that sounds like a problem, medical problem. But it is, I think. Anyway, Intelligent Battery System, or the Battery Monitoring System, as they call it in some other ilks of life. Some different mechanics have different things. Anyway, so that's £121 for a new one of those fucking £122 and 22 pence for a new one of them. So I drove. So she went to London on Saturday for a night out for Valentine's night. I was driving to Bournemouth to get this sensor from a dealership, driving it home to fit it to find out it hasn't worked. So I've got to go and get that diagnosed. So long story short, but a short story long, that's my fucking life for the last couple of weeks. I've been absolutely fucking inundated with it. And for me, the mental health perspective is, I'm sat here going like, what do I do in this situation? Because she needs a car to get to college. She needs a car to get to work. She doesn't earn enough money. So how do I not as a parent have to step in and help? But at the same time, how am I as a parent expected to have fucking £1,500 just led around the house to pay for something for her to live? Do you see what I mean? So it's like a catch-22. So it has inadvertently depressed me a little bit. I'm going to be honest. It's depressed me because I don't know how to get out of this situation. I'm sort of like going, well, I've got a set wage. I've got a set budget. And, you know, I squirrel a little bit away. I'm fortunate enough to have a little bit away for savings. But that savings being completely eradicated, and a chunk of this month's, or in fact, all of this month's savings have all gone, plus all of my savings to get her on the road. And I'm sat there going like, I don't know what to do. That's wiped out my nest egg. That's wiped out what I was trying to build for a holiday to get me through my fucking shit time as an adult. So I suppose for me, it's kind of like it's a bit of a double-edged sword. You're trying to be as helpful as you can to your kids, and you're trying to help them out as much as you can. You're trying to be there as much as you can. You're trying to give them the best start in life as you can. But at the same time, it's really, really fucking difficult. And I sat there going, like, I don't really know how to get over this hurdle because it's hard work. And then you sort of sat there and then you go to work and then you think to yourself, well, my nest egg's gone. The depression or the sadness, we call it, I won't call it depression. The depression is a strong word, but the sadness and the low moments last a lot longer when you know you've not got a nest egg to get yourself away. So you know you've now got to endure another 6 to 8 months to even get somewhere relatable, which is your summertime. So basically, you know you've lost most of your summer of having a good time and relaxing and having the freedom because you've had a bit of a nest egg built up over your winter where you've not been going out. That's now been completely eradicated and wiped out. And we still not resolved the full issue. So I've still got to take it in for diagnostics next week because it's still got to either register the new battery monitoring system to the system, or I think there's an issue with the clip, which needs potentially, and I need to go to a broker's yard, buy a clip and solder one in. So again, it's a fucking funny place to be because I don't really know how to manage that. I don't really know what to do about that because it's the unexpected. And it's the unexpected, and I'm fortunate enough that, you know, I suppose I'm sort of relatable. I'm fortunate enough I had a little bit of a nest egg. So for me, I think to myself, I've lost my nest egg. Yeah, I've lost my comfort zone. I've lost my freedom for the next 8 months. But I also think there's people out there that have to do this without that nest egg. So it's hard, and I'm finding it hard. So God forbid what fucking other people are finding hard in this situation. And I don't know, the low nights, and that's where it's weird because you've got to be consistent in life to be able to succeed. You have to be, we've established that. Be consistent, do things routine, do things for 3 months, make it a learned habit, enjoy the process much to why the positivity of why I do my podcast, because I love talking. I love talking out loud. I love, for me, it's my own therapy. It's free therapy for me to talk into here. And if someone listens, I help someone, Billy bonus. But most of all, it helps me process things, because I'll get off this call and I'll have a little decompression and go, fucking brilliant. This is okay. I know what I've got to do. I know where I've got to go wrong. I know where I've gone right. So there's value to this, but at the same time, it's really hard to be consistent when you're feeling shit. And the amount of times I've sat here in this on this platform and said, be here, be present, be consistent, be accountable, all of these good things, and then you're sat there going, fuck off. Fuck off is what you're saying to yourself most of the time. Like, fuck off with your consistency. I just want to hibernate. I literally just want to go into the fucking forest somewhere, build a log cabin, and just live off candle lights and fucking berries. I'd be quite happy with that. I really would be quite happy with that, because there's a lot less stress. There's stress involved with having all of this shit. There's stress everywhere, and having children. As much as I know we're in this, I'm not going to get political, but I know we're in this decline where people aren't having children. All my kids don't want kids, because they've seen how hard it's been for us to raise them, and they're like, well, we're not on the money and the the situation, financial stability that my parents are on. So how the fuck am I going to be able to do it? And I always say to them, like, remember, you're 20, 19 and 15. So the hard bit's been done. And I endured that with very little wages and no flexible income. I said, I've only got flexibility now because I'm not paying as much as what I was for you, because you're old enough now to cook your own dinners, etc., etc., and you pay a little bit into rent. So for me, I have that disposable income is what I would have spent on them anyway. So I see it as I pull it out the nest egg, and if I need it, I'll redirect it. And also their rent, I don't take their rent. I do. I take their rent and I put their rent into a savings account. So for me, that's their way of saying that, saving a deposit for them. So I'm taking their rent, not even using it, putting it into a savings account for them. So I think they've both got enough for a deposit on a renting accommodation. But I want to get them to £10,000, because I'm saying, like, if you get £10,000 in there, keep saving. What it will do is unlock a deposit. Nearly. Probably not, but it'll get you close. It's a better start than I had anyway. Do you know what I mean? I had fuck all. I literally left my house at 17 with the clothes on my back, and that was it. I paid for my own car. I built my own car, a Mark 1 Fiesta. I literally serviced my own car. It was on the road. Everything was all fuel. Everything was all paid for by myself. I didn't have any of this support that I give my children now. And I did actually text my dad the other day, and I told him this whole scenario. And I texted him at, like, I think I was sat in here one evening, and I was just reflecting, I think it was Monday or Tuesday night, and I hadn't spoke to my dad for a while, and I just texted him saying, fuck off. I said, fuck life. I didn't say fuck. I said, fuck life. I said, and then I went into this whole rant about the car, and he went, and what it did do is, the reason I spoke to him is I had reward and recognition. So for work. So I'd done this big project of work, and I got a couple of £100 reward and recognition. What I did with that £200, I bought a 3D printer, because I wanted something for myself. I was like, do you know what, Dad? And I texted my dad saying, told him the whole story, and I said, I got reward and recognition, not rest and recuperation. That's what I need, is exactly what I put. I said reward and recognition. Do you know what, Dad? I spent it on my fucking self. I said, I'm sick to fucking death of spending money on it, and I bought a 3D printer. And here, that's why I've got this out. That's my 3D print. That is a fucking pencil holder. It is cool as fuck. Do you know what I mean? It's cool. Look at that. It's an orange, fucking 3D printer. 3D printed pencil holder for work. Why? Because I fucking can. So, and I told him that, and he just replied to me saying, "I love you, millions, son. I don't envy you raising kids in today's society, and it is hard work, and I don't think it's going to get any easier, to be honest. But it's sort of kind of, I suppose for me, it's how do you deal with that? I don't know how you deal with that, because I'm like, fortunately, I had a nest egg. I would have had to probably lean in on my parents anyway, so I would have probably passed that up the generation. But I've never asked my parents. I try never to ask my parents for help. But in circumstances like this, is where you get no option. In fact, I just realised my mum paid, and I owe my mum some money, so I got to pay my mum some money. Fuck, just because she lent me the money originally for. What did she lend me the money for? Oh, for the battery. So she lent me the money for the battery because I was like, I can dip in, but I think this is going to be further. I was just having to. I was moaning to my mum, and she sent me the money, so I need to send that money back. So you've just reminded me, podcast, of what I need to do. There's my fucking accountability. Damn it! Goddamn same shit, different day. Anyway, so we digress, mate. But it's been so that's basically been the crux of my last couple of weeks, to be honest. And annoyingly, I've been saving absolutely shitloads of stuff to talk about, and I wanted to talk last weekend. I just wasn't in the mood. You really do. Like, I'm fully supportive of being consistent. I'm fully supportive of being in the moment, and I'm fully supportive of enjoying life as much as you can. That's my advocate. That's what I'm absolutely here to try and progress. I'm trying to say that life isn't easy. Life is difficult. It really fucking is difficult. But it's all about who's around you, and it's all about. And I suppose for me, the support network came into value there because I was able to piss and moan about this to friends and family, and then they would come back to me and say, "Don't worry about it." And then, like I say, my support network, Mum lent me £140. Fucking reminded myself of that. Mum lent me some money, so I was able to pay that off, and to get things going. So I suppose that's a support network. That's the beauty of having support network. And again, I was able to save a little bit to help me. So. But at the same time, I also acknowledge, and if I'm going to put my reflection mental health head on, just how fucking hard life is. I'm in a very fortunate position that I was able to pay for it through savings. There's people that won't. There are people that will put that on a credit card for their children. There's people that won't be able to do it, and then the car will sit out the fucking front and just waste away, and then you almost take that sort of burden, that freedom away from the children. But also, I'm also of the mind that I've done all this, and then, I still haven't had a thank you from my daughter for running around on Saturday to pick up the part. It was like it was an expectation, and I suppose for me, and even so, I had a bit of an argument with my wife about this whole car scenario about a week ago. In fact, a week and a half ago. So last weekend. So yeah, a week ago, thinking of Sunday. So the week before, when it was all, we thought it was all going hunky dory. My wife turned around to me and said to me, "Yeah, but I don't expect anything from you, James. But what I do expect is you to be able to do the cars and mechanic, sort cars." And I went, "Okay, why do you expect that of me? Why do you expect me to sort the cars out? If she's driving and she is the legal age to drive and pass a driving test, why is it my burden to look after that car? It's not my burden. The burden fell to me for my own car, and it falls to me for my own car now. Your burden, the burden of your car falls to me because I'll help you out as much as I can. I'll do what I can, but there's no expectation. Should be no expectation. You put it into a garage, you pay a professional to look at your car, diagnose it, pay the fucking due diligence, pay what is owed, and you take it back. That's the process. Where is this expectation that I'm a mechanic? And it's very much that's the bit that I think is the driving factor for that. That is an inadvertent way of making someone feel shit in my eyes, because I went, well, okay, then, well, your expectation is for me to do this, but I don't know how to do it, and I'm trying to, I'm trying to diagnose it. I diagnosed the IMS system. I diagnosed it was the battery monitoring system. To be fair, took it to the garage, and I took it to one guy called Grumpy, grumpiest bastard I've ever met in his life. Really does suit his fucking name. He is fucking grumpy. He just pissed and moaned. He was like, "Why are you bringing me this car?" And I wrote a list of everything that I'd done to date, and he went. I put the list in front of him, and he went, "You've given me this list." And I went, "Yeah." He goes, "Why haven't you fixed it?" I was like, "Because I'm not a mechanic, mate. I've done everything. There's the list of what my experience and knowledge goes to. Yeah. So I've done this, and this, and it still doesn't work. So I've come to you as a professional mechanic." Is why, because I got a bit grumpy with him as well, because he was getting grumpy with me, pissing and moaning. I said, "Whoa, Grumpy." I said, "I appreciate your name." I said, "But I'm here as a customer, and you're a professional. Can you do the job or not?" It's as simple as that, mate. I've given you a list to try and help you, so you don't have to do everything that I've done and charge me extortionate amounts for stuff I've already done. So that's what the list is for. And it still doesn't work, so I need you to help me. Anyway, fast forward an hour and a half, and I get a phone call from Grumpy. Grumpy. And he rings me and he goes, "Well, I think it's the BMS system, so you need to get that replaced." I was like, "Oh, okay." Basically what I wrote on the paper then. And he was like, "Yeah, but the BMS system's in Bournemouth, they've got one on the shelf. You'll need to go down and pick it up. I was like, can you pick it up and repair it? And he was like, it's a 10 mil spanner, mate. I don't know. You can do that. That's literally what he said to me. I was like, what? I can't even pay someone to repair the fucking car. I've paid him. I said, how much to diagnose what I've already told you, mate? And he was like, 20 quid. I was like, fucking hell. I reluctantly gave this prick 20 quid cash. Because he wanted cash. Of course he does. Dodged the fucking tax, man. Here's 20 quid cash, mate, for telling me what I already know. And I'm now going to have to spend 2 hours or 2.5 hours of my life driving to Bournemouth to pick up this fucking part, drive back to repair it. And I'm going to have to do it myself. Thank you. Well, whilst you're here, mate, I'm going to bend over and I want you to repeatedly shove that fucking broom up my arse, mate. Absolute. Go in dry. Go in dry. Make it a little bit painful. Make me feel like I am alive. Fucking hell. I was sat there going, I've dropped it off. An hour and a half later, you've read my diagram, told me it's what I said it is, because you've not even looked at it. I even left the sensor off slightly so that I knew he hadn't pushed it on properly. And I was sat there going like, I don't know what to fucking do here. There's nothing. So I went and picked up then I said to him, can I pick up tomorrow morning? Because it was getting late. And I'll be honest, I wanted to fucking sit and chill. And he went, you want me to leave it here and look at this piece of shit for the night? I went, you're not going to look at the piece of shit for the night. You're going home. It'll be sat in your car park, and it saves me driving down in rush hour to pick up a fucking car that I'm pissed off with. And he was, okay then. And I drove to fucking Bournemouth, picked up this part, came back, and it didn't repair it. 122 pence to be told I'm wrong. Fucking hell, mate. So I just sort of sat there. And I suppose it sort of feeds into that whole, like you say, even today, I've been exhausted, mentally exhausted, because I did all that yesterday. And I'm mentally exhausted because I've been running through my fucking head all of these scenarios of this car to try and get it repaired. And I'm like sat there going, I am fucking tired. I've slept today. And everyone's like, you've been really sleepy today. Well, I wonder why. Because the expectations on me to repair this car, she's pissing and moaning because she wants to go to college next week and doesn't want to get on the bus, but doesn't want to fucking spend the Saturday. Instead, she wants to spend the Saturday going to London and going on the piss and send me videos of her doing shots. I'm like, I don't really know. Where's your priorities lie, you fucking muppet? I love it a bit, but fucking hell. Anyway, as I was talking about, so that's basically what has been going on for the last couple of weeks, or last 3 or 4 weeks. And it's just got on top of me a little bit, I'll be honest. It's relentless. It doesn't matter what you earn, to be able to. I don't know anybody that's got £1,500 in the working class saved to just repair your daughter's car. And I sit there and go, well, there's part of me going, well, fuck it, just let it sit there. But then there's another part of me going, well, do I have a responsibility on this? Is this my job to do this? I don't fucking know. But I sit there and go, it's hard fucking work. And I ring my brother, and my brother goes, fuck that, I wouldn't be paying that. I ring my other mate, and he's like, fuck that, I wouldn't be paying that. I'm like, yeah, okay. So you're all saying you wouldn't pay it, and they're all similar working class, same sort of money. We're all on the same sort of thing. So we're all on the same sort of boat. So I get to gauge whether I'm going above and beyond, or I'm being a dick. And in this sense, I think I've gone above and beyond. Although you wouldn't think it from the way that my daughter doesn't say thank you. So yeah, that's driven my life for the last couple of weeks. And when I say how the devil are you, it's fucking shit, mate. It's fucking bullshit. But I'm getting through. I'm getting there. Do you know what? If anything, it drives me harder to succeed further. Is as mentally and emotionally draining as it is to sit there and go, I don't know where this money's going to come from. And it does. Some days I sit there and go, I don't know where I'm going to get this money from. I don't know how to do this, but I want to give her the best start in life. She needs to get to college without this, and I run through all these scenarios and I think, well, maybe I'll drive her there in the morning and I'll drop her off and I'll go above and beyond that way even more, So, but then I sit there and I go, actually, 9 times out of 10, I take shit from these fucking people in my house because there's 4 girls and there's 1 me. And I feel like the outcast anyway. And here I am busting my bollocks. So, part of me, the negative side of me goes, fucking chin it off, mate. Let her fucking do it herself. And the other side knows, no, you need to help her out, mate. She's not going to succeed otherwise. So I sit there, but then I sit and procrastinate on it, and I sit there and endure it, and I sit there and go, fucking hell, where am I going to get? I've got to pull some cash out my ass here. I've even got mechanics literally fucking reading verbatim what I've written down and charge me 20 quid to read it, mate. I'm just sat there going, what is this fucking world about? When I get a mechanic telling me that it's a 10 mil spanner and I can do it, that blows my mind. No, I know I can do it. Okay, but I don't want to do it. I want you to do it, because when you replace it, you would have had to tell me it's not working. And that's what you would have had to do. You would have had to say to me, it's not worked, and you would have gone into more diagnosis. Now, I've paid you £20, bought the part, repaired it myself, and it's not working. So now I've got to do further work. You fucking knobhead. So I'm sat there going like, fuck you, Grumpy. So yeah, and it does. It gets on top of you a little bit, to be honest. And you sit there going, "Fucking hell, I don't want to go. I just don't want to keep going around this circle of life." But we got to. We got to endure it. What am I going to talk about today? As we've spent absolute fucking abundance of time, I've written down. If you saw my notes, I don't know if you can see that, but these are like, this goes on for fucking ever. These are notes I write on my podcast. So we're at the bottom now because I'm talking about current stuff. I try to remember stuff, and there's a couple of things I want to talk about. I'll tell you what I'm going to start with, actually, and this was a hard hitting thing. I wrote this down this morning, actually, because I was watching this. This meme, one of the little short videos, and this guy turned around to this other guy, and two girls were there, and he was interviewing. They do the interviews on the streets, and he turned around to guys. He said, "What's a powerful men's mental health sentence that you can think of right now? What's the most powerful mental health?" I was trying to think of it there. What's the most powerful men's mental health statement you can say right now? And he said, "A man's first flowers are at his funeral." There we go. And it's true, isn't it? A man's first, I'm not saying that all men want flowers. There's an equivalent. Do you know what I mean? But there's an expectation for men to buy flowers in scenarios. And we had Valentine's Day yesterday, February the 14th. And, the expectation on the man to, we'd go out for the meal. And, went out for a spa hotel and went out for a really slap up meal, top restaurant and all that sort of stuff. Did all that, paid for it all. There was an expectation on me to be able to sort of say Happy Valentine's Day. I get fucked off with that expectation because I don't give a fuck. It's a card day. It's a day that's been made up to make us spend money, and they do a fucking great job of doing it. And 27 fucking years in, and I'm still fucking doing it now on my watch. And I'm sat there going like, actually, and do you know what I got? I got a card, and I was like, oh, okay. This is a bit awkward. But it is true, though. A man's first flowers is on his funeral. It's true. But men don't get gifted. And I talk about this all the time in mental health. Men don't get gifted enough. There's an expectation of us. Again, I allude to the fact that the expectation was on me to be able to repair this car. Why is the expectation on me? Just because I've got a set of bollocks and a cock does not mean that there's an expectation on me to know what the fuck a mechanical job is. It's equal opportunities, equal rights. Why don't you research it? Why don't you do what I'm going to do and go and Google it? Let's see if we can meet in the middle. Let's do it together. Let's Google together and let's come together. And then let's say it's this, this, and this, or what you think it is. And I play devil's advocate all the time like that because I'm like, well, actually, maybe you should learn because we're all standing on this pillar. There's an expectation now, that expectation of the men ruling the world now, so to speak. I use that word loosely because it's not rule the world, but men were in high positions. And I said only a few weeks ago that women are in high positions now. They're in there's a lot more support for women in these high positions. And I sit there and go, that's fine. So you can take the high administration, high exec roles and all that. You don't see women builders. You don't see many women. You do see them, but the Google the stats and it'll tell you. The statistics are very, very low for women in building jobs, and the same as mechanical jobs and all that. So men are still running those work. I'm thinking to myself, well, actually, you want to change for the easy job, the exec decision making jobs. I want to see women understand and know the hard labor jobs, the hard intensive labor jobs. Laying roads, fucking mechanics, engineering, building. All that sort of stuff. I want to see women in those environments. So I'm like sat there going, no, learn. And also I said to my daughter, you fucking read on it and learn it. You're going to have to understand this unless you find, a man or a woman, depending on your sexual preference. I don't know because I don't get involved in that. You're going to need to have that on tap. You're going to need to have that support. I can't always be there. So you need to have that support to learn and understand. So it's interesting, though, how we say this, and men don't get gifted as much as that. But that's a little powerful thing as I was going into some stuff. I've got so many things that I want to talk about. I'm just trying to find the right one. Here we go. There we go. That's the one I'll talk about. What am I talking about? I should have had this prepared. I did have it prepared, but I go off on a tangent to start with, so I don't really know. I was on an ADHD and autism forum. I'm on a couple of those forums because it's interesting to find out what people are struggling with, and do I struggle the same, and all that sort of stuff. So, and I read this this article where this message post, sorry, not article. I read this message post where a woman had come on and she said, "I've got autism, and I really struggle when my boss puts a meeting in for me out of the blue with no context." And I'm going, okay, yeah, I can relate to that. That I can see how that would be triggering, because you know, and I've certainly had situations. In fact, 2 seconds, hold on. I've just realised I've got my fucking heater on. You can probably hear that. 2 seconds. Stop eating. Stop heating, mate. Stop heating, man. I've got shorts on as well because it's that bloody hot in here. Jesus. I was sat there going, wow, I'm sweating like fucking here. And I had the heater on and I heard it, and I was like, you're going to hear it in a minute. Go, thank you, drive safely. So just ignore that, but go with the flow. Yeah, so it was really interesting, and I read it and I thought to myself, I tried to relate to it, and I was like, because I tried to relate to people's things, and do I feel that if I got a coping mechanism in place for that I could probably offer some support with, and I did, and I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I was like, I do actually remember, I do actually remember those times, and I say remember because I put a coping mechanism in place for me. But I struggle massively with, fucking coming in and seeing meetings, and I don't know what the context of the meeting is, and I don't know what the meeting's around. Should I come prepared? I don't know. It sends me on a complete and utter spiral. Used to all the fucking time, and until I put certain coping mechanisms in place. And I wrote the coping mechanisms on this forum, and everybody was like, actually, I never even fucking thought about that. And I said it was a really easy coping mechanism for me. I turned around and I said, speak with your boss. I said, have a word with your boss. When your boss puts a meeting in, can you ask him politely to let you know through either, we've all got Teams messaging, we've all got whatever messaging you may use in your network, in your business environment, but there'll be something like an instant messenger, or send me an email. And I said, can you send me an email? My wording was, if you put a meeting in, can you send me an instant message to let me know what the meeting's about so that I don't have to worry? And he was like, okay, why? And I explained to him, I said, well, ADHD autistic. I said, I stress because if you put a meeting in out of the blue, I'll think I've done something wrong. And because you're my boss. So I will sit there and I will stress about it and I will worry about it unless you tell me that there's nothing to worry about and we're going to talk about this. And he was like, right. I said, even if you put it in the header, so I know that it's nothing important. So I put it into the meeting note. I said, so if you do those little tiny things, it makes my life a little bit easier. I said, if you don't want to do it, I've asked, then that's up to you. I'm not going to force you to do it. But I said, it would help me immensely. So he went then, going forward, he said, absolutely no problems at all. And going forward, what he has done is every time he puts a meeting in, he puts it in the description what we're talking about. So I know that I'm not in trouble. Okay. And it's such an easy thing to worry about, such an easy thing to stress about. And I turned around and said, well, that's all you've got to do. Speak to your boss and ask your boss, instead of just putting a blind copy in of a meeting request, ask him to advise you on what the meeting request is for. Do I need to come prepared? Do I need to read up and understand anything before I attend the meeting? It's a pretty basic thing, but at the same time, as a neurodivergent, I would stress out massively from doing that. If I just saw a meeting request come in, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to have to accept it, which I will do. I'll panic accept, and then what I'll do is I'll worry about it. I'll just continually worry about it. I'll say, so I don't want to do that. And then what I would normally do is message him, and I'll go, is everything okay? And he'd go, yeah. And I go, okay, well, you're not answering my question. You put a meeting in. Yeah, nothing to worry about. Because that's where he is, because he's obviously very busy. And I'm like, okay, I get you're very busy, but I need to know if I've done anything wrong. That little tiny coping mechanism that I put in place just by being open and honest with my boss and with other colleagues that I work with routinely, just by putting in a request with them, I've basically I've made it so it's easier for me. And I think that, there you go. Thanks for using "Wish You a Safe Journey." Just catch. I don't know if you caught that, but cheeky little number over there. That's my diesel heater that heats up this man cave. I've got a diesel heater just because it's cheap and efficient, and it keeps me nice and warm. But yeah, it talks to me and tells me that have a nice day or something like that. I think it says, or a nice journey. Have a safe journey. Have a safe journey. But yeah, so I said, well, it's an easy thing. And then I started chatting to these people on the forum. And they went, actually, that's a really easy coping mechanism. I was like, well, it is. Just be open and honest and talk. If you sit there and just wallow in your own self-pity and stress about stuff, that's going to cause you fucking no end of troubles. But by just being open and honest, you can help yourself out. You can help that person help you, which will help you prepare, which will make you happier. I say it's an absolute no-brainer. But it's amazing how, number one, I say no brainer now because I didn't do that. But also, I say to myself, but I suppose I didn't do it because I wasn't really in a position to worry about that, because I've never really been in a position where I would be invited to meetings that mattered, if you like, or I would be the invitee, the inviter, sorry. So I always knew what the meeting was about. So it's quite rare. But now I'm in a position like where I've got quite a bit of engagement with my boss because of the level of work and the type of work I do. I was listening to fucking Prodigy in the background there, picking me up. But it basically turned around and, and I said, so I've noticed a pattern. I've noticed a trend. I've noticed that I'm really stressing out when you put a meeting in. I also noticed that you put meetings in for Friday afternoons. Why do you put meetings in for Friday afternoons? And his was like, well, I put my meetings in for Friday afternoons because I like to catch up with you on what you've done for the week. And also it's my only real quiet time. And I said, I have big problems with that. I said Friday afternoons. I work Monday to Thursday longer hours, so I can wrap up everything Friday morning. I don't like working Friday afternoons. Now, the business allows me to do that, providing I've got the hours in the bank, flexible working. But I do that for my own mental health. So I put that in because that gives me time to decompress. So I have quite a stressful job. So that half a day is half a day to myself where I can sit, clean, do what I need to do, reflect, go for a walk, whatever it may be. I'm on my own and it makes me happier for the weekend. So I go into the Friday night less tired. And also trying to deal with anything on a Friday afternoon is a nightmare because I just think to myself, I'm not going to do anything with this. So I'm just going to sit and dwell on it all weekend. I'm going to have to do some administration work to make sure that I remember what it is on Monday. Let's just book it for Monday and I can hit it cold and fresh. Do you know what I mean? So little tiny things about being open and honest, providing you're not asking for the world, which some people do, it is a bit of a problem. I think there's people out there, and I certainly look on the forums and go, I'm quite vocalized because I appreciate also that the world needs to still tick on. We can't stop the world from ticking on because we're doing because we've got ADHD and autism. I can't expect the world to stop because of my neurodivergency. I've always said I still think of it as a superpower. To a degree, that there is elements where there's a superpower if it's managed correctly. If it's not managed correctly, which is the hardest bit to manage, is managing it. It can spiral out of control, and rightly so, as it has now. I've shown you. I'm asking everyone to be consistent and accountable and all that sort of stuff. And here I am completely failing at the first hurdle myself because life does chuck curveballs at you. So they're not things that I would learn to manage. They're not things I would learn to understand. They're not things I've ever experienced in life. So I don't know how to tackle those. So it's a new thing for me. So again, I now need to put in new coping mechanisms, or if anything, I need to analyze everything so I can build up more of a mental resilience to it. And that's often what I do. People say to me, I reflect all the time. And I talk about reflection all the fucking time. Like, why do you reflect so much, James? I said, because mental resilience. It helps me to be mentally resilient. If I fully understand a situation that's either upset me or made me happy, I can instill those coping mechanisms that mean that the bad times don't happen again and the good times bolster and reinforce my mental resilience. So I use them as a positive phrase internally. So for me, that's the key, is the reflection is key. And I know I totally get that it's really hard to reflect if you don't want to be inside your own mind. I'm very fortunate in the sense that I've worked on my mental health for the best part of 10 years. But really, really, like I said, really taking control of my mental health in the last 5 years. Normally something like this would have made me spiral almost out of control. I can see already the smile in the that I'm happy that I'm able to navigate these challenges and navigate them positively and try to still look at a positive aspect on things. And that is all down to reflection. That is all down to understanding myself. That is all down to putting the coping mechanisms in place. Sometimes you do need to shut yourself away a little bit. I do. I go quiet and I reflect and I think, how can I do this? Luckily, in this situation, what it is done is actually given me strength. So it's given me drive again, because I sit there and go, right, okay, I don't. So my mindset went, I don't want to not be here for my daughter. I don't not want to be able to give her a good start in life. Do I owe it to her? Absolutely not. She's an adult now. She's 18. So theoretically, you're in the big wide world. And I know there's a lot of parents that will do that, shove you out the fucking front door, crack on. I'm not like that. My kids are with me and I'll be a dad till the day I die. I then think to myself, okay, so how can I make it so that I can do that? Get promoted, get a job that pays more. Is the easiest way, isn't it? Bring in more money. Now that isn't easy for everybody, and I take it that's a flippant comment, because you say, "Oh, just like that, go and earn some money." No, it's not that easy. No, it's not that easy. You have to work hard, but that is the part of life. You can't coast through life and expect it to be easy. You sit there and go like, if I wanted to, absolutely, with my ADHD and autism and permanent PTSD, just chuck the fucking mix into the mix. I could absolutely, all diagnosed, all professionally, all on my medical record. I could sit here now. I could not work. I could absolutely. And you know what? There's days where I don't want to work. There's days I don't want to get out of bed. There's days where I don't like life. There's days where the ADHD and the autism really do fucking take over, massively. But then I sit there and go, no, because I don't want to wallow in my self-pity. I want to give my kids the best start that they can have. That I will reap those benefits when they're older and understand how life is fucking difficult. And they see actually how far above and beyond we've gone as parents. So for me, that's the driving factor, really. I sat there and I went, well, actually, no, James, you need to crack on. You need to earn more money. You need to get promoted. You need to bring more money into the house, which means that everybody in the house is secure. That's my responsibility. I can't be there emotionally for my children. I don't, there'll be people saying, what do you mean you can't be? I can't. I don't get emotional. I just get annoyed with crying. So when you've got 4 women in the house and they cry, and I get annoyed with crying, it's a recipe for disaster, isn't it? I don't like emotions. I just sit there and go, fucking move your emotions aside, tell me what's wrong, and I can try and fix it. That's what I sit. So I get very awkward when people cry, and I get secondhand embarrassment from it. I sit there and go, why are you crying? Just tell me the fucking problem, and I'll try and fix it. The problem is normally associated with hormones. I can't fix that. And normally it's something I've said. I can fix that if it is something I've said. So I've noticed now there's a double-edged sword here. You try and help them out as much as you can, but at the same time, if it's a hormonal thing and they're all in sync and they're all fucking assholes, and I'm going to say that because they are all assholes in the same period of time. I'm sat there going, fucking hell, this is a fucking mental show. Literally sitting there and I'm going, this is fucking mental. Wow, I didn't expect this. And I'm kind of a big deal. But it's interesting though. I sit there and I go, I didn't expect this today. Do you know what I mean? It's like when I reflect back to, I was chatting about this on my weekend with my wife when we went away, and I said, I said it's like Monday night when I came in and my now 20-year-old was 19, was absolutely smashed and blamed me for everything. Said I was a fucking awful dad, absolutely pissed up. I said I didn't expect that. 10 o'clock on a fucking Monday night. I was going to bed and I walked in and you were pissed and told me to deal with it. I didn't expect that. I was just going to bed, mate. So life chucks the unexpected at you with children. But I think that is the problem with, that's the problem with life, is it does chuck unexpected curveballs at you. But also I know that I'm fortunate to have a man cave where I can sit and do everything I want. Like I said, I can 3D print in here. I can airbrush in here. I've got an airbrush kit. I've got a vinyl machine, so I can make fucking vinyl stickers if I want to. I can paint. I do artwork. I do Lego. I've got play darts. I'm very, very fortunate. I've got this little humble abode here, this little place for me to reflect and stay away from the noise, if you like. What I am very fortunate as well is all this reflection that I do is built up that mental resilience to be able to deal with these factors, because they are hard work. I don't know anyone that hasn't any of my mates, friends wise, haven't endured something. I had a friend of mine years and years and years ago, and she used to come into work absolutely shattered, absolutely shattered. Her son was having night terrors, something she never expected. But she was up for 2-3 hours with her son, night terrors, absolutely brutal. And you think to yourself, fucking hell, how mentally resilient you've got to be to deal with your son having night terrors, young son, for 2 to 3 hours of screaming hysterically on and off, in and out of sleep, not really knowing, if he's here or awake or asleep, sleepwalking, all that sort of stuff, and then try and focus and then still try and do a day's work. Fucking nails. I reflect back to my brother who's, absolutely endured it with his daughter who's got autism, and and made it so that she's got the best start in life, but he's sacrificed lots of time, sleep, effort, finance, raising a family, as well as trying to hold on to a marriage, as well as, trying to hold on to a job. All of these things are challenges that we're not geared for. As well as when you go into work is as more stressful than it's ever been before. You have to be mentally resilient. You have to be mentally resilient to be able to endure these things in life. It's so easy to go, do you know what? I'm not going to work. I'm going to stay off the fucking job. I'm going to go on the benefits and I'm going to fucking do drugs. Do you know what? That's an easier life. That is an easier life than the fucking hardship of raising children, marriage, and so financial burden, fucking bills, mortgage, and going to a job that's stressful. Do you know what I mean? And raising kids and also enduring their stress. So my kids' stress never just stays with them. My stress stays with me. I sit there and I fucking, and it stays with me, and I reflect on it, and I manage it, and I work my way through it. My kids don't. My kids go, there's my stress. Fucking manage it. Ooh, I didn't expect to be dealing with that today. So you have to be mentally resilient for life anyway. But more importantly, raising children, enduring life is just as fucking hard work. In fact, I had a bit of an argument actually. I'm going to be candid. It was an argument. I had an argument online with a lady that she had an autistic son, and he was autistic, probably I think level 2 autism if you're going to go by the levels, just because he wasn't non-verbal, but you could see he was struggling. Wasn't quite to the level 1 status where it was my sort of level, where you little things annoy you and structure and stuff like that. You could see the stress in him. And she came on and basically completely and utterly on social media, completely and utterly blamed her kid's autism and not being able to look after him on the government. Literally said it's the government's fault. The government aren't providing enough funding for my kid to go into schools. No. It's not the government's fault, mate. It's your fault. You need to work a little bit harder and put them into school at a little bit of your cost, rather than just what is costed by the taxpayer. Because you have to be. And I said, well, you've got to take accountability. My kids are the same. I've got one that's got ADHD and one that's going through the autism diagnosis, because it is hereditary, and I can see the traits in both of them. And I've got one that's I call normal. I call the normal one my eldest. She's fucking so easygoing. She's so happy, so easygoing. I literally look at her and go, I wish I was you, because she's, between the whole family network the family dynamic in my house is you've got me, ADHD, autistic. You've got my my eldest daughter, who's neurotypical, just happy with life, and really is just happy with life. And then you've got my wife, neurotypical, happy with life, just doesn't fucking think about anything, just literally just happy as life. And then you've got my middle daughter, who's ADHD, fucking mental case, proper stressors out, real bad anxiety, was in hospital 2 weeks ago on an ECG and everything, because she had a severe panic attack and anxiety. And it was about the car, because she was stressing about work, and I was like, I'm trying to help you out as much as I can. So that does feed into a little bit, I'm trying to help her through what she experiences. So naturally, you take on a little bit of that side of the stress that you didn't expect, because you're taking on her stress. She's too young to manage. She isn't mentally resilient in any way, shape, or form, but she's 19, so she's not experienced a lot of what she's experiencing now, whereas I've experienced it for 45 years. So I'm pretty au fait with how to manage it. Yes, some days slip through the net. So only last week, I was so fucking tired and pissed off with life, I left work at 1 o'clock, went home. Everyone, where are you going? I'm going home, mate. I don't want to be here. There's no point in me sitting and wallowing my self-pity when I can go home, sit on my comfortable sofa that I paid for, and watch my TV. I don't want to be here. It's as simple as that. Fuck off. It's just basically what I said. And then I've got my youngest daughter who's autistic and literally fucking argues with me left, right, and centre. And needs certain things. It doesn't like change, doesn't like textures of food, all these sort of things. But it's happy as Larry. But we've got something we've got to manage. And I think to myself that life keeps chucking these fucking curveballs at you, and we try so hard. I've had these conversations with my parents all the time, and every single time they come back to my parents, who were they're the fifth, they were born in the 50s and 60s, and they always say to me, son, there's no point in coming to us for advice. We never had any of this. We didn't have social media. We didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have anything to worry about. We just told you when the street lights come on, you to be home for your dinner. Do you know what I mean? Our life was dictated by the street lights. That is how crazy it is. When they go off, it was time to go to school. When they come on, it's time to come home for dinner. And you knew you had a curfew for 9:30. So you just someone's got a fucking watch. Tell me what time 9:30 is. I'll go home. But that was how simple life is. Now, it was only last night I was sat there and I had my daughter, and I'll talk about my middle daughter again. And my middle daughter, she's completely fucking off the rails last week, was in hospital, ECG, car stressing her out, blah, blah, blah. But then yesterday, Valentine's Day, works all day, finishes at 4:00, then jumps on a train to Andover, a local area, goes from Andover into London, goes to London to Soho on the night out, stays in a hotel, comes back home. She didn't pay for the hotel, so I will say that, because otherwise I'd have gone ballistic and said, why are you paying for a hotel when you've not paid for your priority of the car? But that's the sort of kind of freedom and that she is used to and wants, but at the same time, it's not prioritizing things. So it's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one, trying to be mentally resilient in today's society, today's world. You've got to think to yourself, all the shit we see on the news. I don't watch the news, much of it. I get updates from YouTubers now that just literally give me a short summary of the news in the last week. Because I think there's this guy I watch at the moment. He says, you don't watch the news, but you don't want to be a thicky dum-dum to your mates. And I go, he gives me a summary of the news for the week, and I go, fucking cheers, easy. But it's really hard to be mentally resilient in today's fucking world. It really, really is. But at the same time, going back to the skit about the, talking about my boss, put coping mechanisms in place. This is one giant coping mechanism for me. This is my coping mechanism in here. I sit in here. It's got everything I want in here. It makes me feel happy, makes me feel comfortable, makes me feel safe. And as an autistic, you need a little private space. You really fucking do. You've got to take yourself away from the noise to be able to sort of function, especially if you're in a high functioning, job as well. So all these things, you've got to put the coping mechanism in place. When I get in a car, I've said this before, get in a car, I've got to have a car set up the right way to make sure that it feels safe because of the car crashes I've had. But I put coping mechanisms in place I get in and I check everything methodically. I go, and I feel safe, I feel happy. It's second nature to me because I've been doing it for years, but it makes me feel safe, makes me feel comfortable. I do it in every car I get into, so every car is set up. That is a coping mechanism I've instilled. Coping mechanism coming out here, coping mechanism in work, telling my boss, can you tell me what the meeting's about so I don't stress and think I've done something wrong? Coping mechanism. Very easy, very simple one to do. I've got a priority desk in work, so I know that I go to a certain desk and it's my desk. That to me is invaluable because I know that it's the state set up ready for me. So coping mechanisms, utilize the advantage of the system when it's right and it's positive. Don't blame the system for failing when you're asking for an easy life. Like I said, I had an argument with that woman because I was like, well, do you work? No. She said, I don't work. Oh, no. This is the way it went. She said, no, I don't work. So you don't work, you're on benefits, and you're kicking off the government have dropped the hours because your son doesn't go to SEN class. I think, but are you not putting anything in? She said, well, and I want my own free time. I want my own time. You've had kids, love. You don't get free time when you have kids. Birth that child, and by birthing that child, that kid's yours. You have the fact that you have that burden now for the rest of your life, because it can be a burden. There is times where it's happy, and don't get me wrong, there's no negativity around. There's a lot of negativity. Don't lie to yourself, James. There's a little bit of negativity around having children, but at the same time, there is some good moments, and they do help when you need. Like I always help my parents now, so I see the value in me now. When I didn't bring as much shit home as fucking my kids do to my house. I brought the police once to my parents' house, and that was because I reported a guy for punching a window into a printing frame shop at 2 o'clock in the morning. He punched the window through. I reported him, gave a description to the police, and they found out who he was. He was a soldier, paid for the repair of the window, didn't cost the customer, the business owner, any money. And I got the reason the police came around to my door was to give me £10 to say the owner of the printing shop has given you £10. He knows who you are, for saying thank you for reporting the crime. Then the police dropped the £10 to me and said, can I also ask why, as a 13-year-old, you were in town at 2 o'clock in the morning with your friend who's 14? And I went, well, well, what I was doing was I was scouting for women coming out of the pubs. Literally what we were doing. And we were walking around to the pub to see if there was any drunk women that coming out. And he was like, in the copper of them days, he literally just looked at me and went, wow, fucking fair play to you, mate. He shut the door and I got grounded for 2 weeks. I got grounded for fucking 2 weeks for fucking going scouting for fucking vagina at 2 o'clock in the morning. Hey, fucking lads. I was young, dumb. But yeah, you got to be mentally resilient these days. You know, you really do. And like I say, I've got 3 fucking kids, so I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going to say that, absolutely. But the mental resilience does wear thin, and I often say to myself, you know, like now I'm very much in this rut at the moment. I would say, if I'm going to put a bit of a spin on it, you know, it is hard work. I'm trying to be consistent. I'm trying to do everything that society says to do. I'm trying to, you know, like I say, advance in work, get a bit more money, pay off your mortgage, pay off your bills, pay off your car, whatever, you know, try to have a little bit of disposable savings, you know, go away on holiday when you can. I haven't managed to. Yeah. So for me, it's kind of, I'm ready. I'm like 2 months into the year and I'm like, fuck, I need a break from this already. This is tough shit. And this is the start of 2026. And I got fucking Britney Spears kicking off in the background. And then it's tough. There was something else I wanted to talk to you about though, before the reason of repetition is because there we go. I'm trying to think of some stuff. The environment dictates who you are. Talking about, so that's what it is. So that's what I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about a little bit of and do you know what? This feeds into mental resilience actually. And I was sat to myself, and I was whilst I was reflecting a couple of weeks ago. Bearing in mind, I've just gone over loads of the home stuff I was going through. I was thinking about the work stuff, and I was saying to myself, you know, for me, what's different? What's different about 2026? Why am I so? It's hard to say unhappy. It's not hard to say I'm unhappy. It's quite easy to say I'm unhappy. I'm not happy. I'm not happy as I could be, and I don't know why. And I've been trying to run over those thought processes for quite a while now, and I think for me the unhappiness is because home life is a challenge. You know, it really fucking is. You know, you try and do what you can. You try and think of ways of, like I say, the 3D printer for me is, you know, I think to myself, I can make that, sell that for a £5. That £5 goes into a pot. You know, the pot gets bigger. You know, I might build my savings pot up a bit quicker. So, you know, you're constantly thinking of ways to earn money, to survive, trying to think about ways of cutting money. You know, money is a big driving factor in for everybody in today's generation, today's society. But also I'm thinking to myself, you know, what normally would I look at? Now, I had this job, a fair few years ago now. It was 5 years ago, almost 5 years to the day, actually, when I left it. And I was in that job I was at that specific job for 11 years. And I will happily say every single day was hard work. I was a painter and finisher on aircraft, so it was a very labor-intensive job. But every fucking day I was happy. And I was happy in my job because I was spending 8 to 9 hours a day there. 9 hours probably, be more realistic. And the people I was there with made me happy. And I was trying to reflect back and, you know, what's different now? What's different about why am I not so happy? Normally I wouldn't be. And then it clicked. I went, well, I'm dreading going to work on Monday. Why am I dreading going to work on Monday? Because it's relentless, you know, and I say relentless, and it's because it's so tough at the moment in terms of the economic system that it's really hard to go in and have the enjoyable time. I used to think that work was a bit like a family. You go there and they pick you up. If you walked into work and you went, I'm having a shit day, normally you'd have somebody to go, oh, well, how can I help that for you? Or make you laugh, or have a bit of fun, or let's go and get a coffee, you know, and put the worlds to rights. You don't get as much of that now, especially with working from home. You don't get to see people as often. So, and I was sat there thinking about this, and I was sat there going like, what's the difference? Why am I not as happy? And you know what? I do. Personally, my job itself, I love, but at the moment, I think for me, the environment is it's a very negative. There's lots going on in the whole of the organisation in terms of across the country, the UK, that it's impacting everybody. It's not just me. I'm not a siloed experience, but when you hear that negativity, you try to evaluate that negativity and understand it and say, well, why? Why is there so much negativity? And I'm saying it so much that 3 times. And I think to myself, well, I don't know. It's because life is and this I'm also conscious this is a very negative fucking podcast. I'm trying not to be. But it is a very difficult place to be at the moment. But the right coping mechanisms are in place. That's the crux of it. But then you think to yourself, this is where I say the positivity will come when you look for a new change, or you look for a new challenge, or you look for another way of getting passive incoming, or whatever it may be. Or maybe it might just be a case of, do you know what, like this weekend we were busy sorting out the car. The weekend before that we were busy sorting the car, and the weekend before that I was busy ripping the living room out, and I basically did plastering for the first time in my fucking life. Did a really fantastic job, but it took me all weekend. So I also know to myself that I haven't stopped for 3 weekends, and work's been relentless as well in terms of lots going on. So I'm not giving myself the true decompression away from it, because I'm kind of going from work, stress, 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 home, stress, 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 sleep, work, stress, 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 home, stress, 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 sleep. And I'm doing that midweek. And then at the weekend, I'm going home, DIY, car, stress, 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 no real decompression. So you kind of, some things take a fall, and clearly apparent for me, the podcast took a fall last week. And then I said to myself, well, now you haven't been consistent, so now you fall off this social media program that you're trying to develop. So then you get sad about that, because you're like, well, I've been consistent for like 6 months, posting every single day, doing a podcast every single week. Now you've not been consistent. But it's really hard to be consistent. And I say all the time, like, you've got to be positive. Go get your fucking haircut. Go get a beard trim. Make yourself feel good. Go for a run. I've even started running fucking last week. What the fuck's that about? I've started running to try and give myself a little bit of extra free time, and also give myself a little bit of fitness, a little bit of boost in the fitness, and get the endorphins going. I'm thinking to myself, that'll do. That'll help. So it's all about that. It's all about dipping into the resilience tank, but it's also acknowledging where the stress lies. And I think for me, even if I'm just reflecting now, I haven't taken enough time to myself. And then I think to myself, am I going to get time to myself? I don't think I'm going to, because, there's always going to be a burden. Like, there's always going to be somebody that needs something. There's always, my children are always going to need something. My wife's always going to need something. My mum and dad. I mean, mum rang me the other day and she was like, James, I haven't heard you for a week. So I was like, fucking hell, mate. I don't even know what day of the week it is, so, but it's really, really easy that, then I think to myself, to analyze that in a little bit of a deeper level. My mum wants to engage me because I make her feel happy. And same as my dad, because they like to know that I'm getting through life happy because they're parents. Do I like to know that my kids are getting through life happy? Yes, I do, which is why I try to help them. So I get the balancing effect, and I get the fact that I'm this little middle conduit that's basically just gone fucking draw back, shut off. I'm just going to fucking piss and moan about life, and I'm going to try and work it out in privacy of my own home. I'm going to try and get fucking, promoted or whatever, try and find a fucking job that pays that I need it to pay, whatever it may be. I'm going to have to try and do that. But sometimes you step back and you don't realize you stepped back away from a lot of the support network that actually keeps you going. It's very important to understand that. I think, it's very important to understand that. And I think for me, that's where I can already tell this podcast has been invaluable for me, because I've now got to the point where I've understood that I needed a bit of time. Fortunately, I do have a long weekend coming up, which is going to be nice. And I've actually, on the balance of the So I've booked something for a couple of weekends away to go away for a long weekend camping. Fishing, all that sort of stuff, just completely decompress from the world, leave my mobile phone. I'm not even going to take my fucking mobile phone. I don't care. I'm just going to literally shut off for the weekend, do some fishing, chill out, and have a nice long weekend. And I'm very fortunate I can do that because I've got older children that don't need the close support of a younger child as they used to when they were younger children. So I'm going to take that advantage of that. And even just reflecting here, I'm on that. I'm fully on board. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, actually, because I think that's a nice closure to fit on me going away. I still got so much to talk about, so I think I'm going to try and do another podcast. Excuse me. I'm going to try and do another podcast, I think, because I've got so much to talk about. But I just wanted to come and get the ball, get the momentum going, get the thought train going, because that's what I needed. And it has already. I've got a smile on my face. I feel much happier that I've spoken and I've opened up, which is a key part here. You know, this whole journey is about being transparent. This whole journey is also about showing that transparency can help. You know, just by being open. If I can be open on a forum, you can be open in your little support network, and maybe that will open up an avenue to something else. You know, don't sit there and wallow in self-pity. Don't sit there and procrastinate on things. Actually try and support. It's amazing. It's not, I've always maintained, it's not what you know, it's who you know in life. The more people you know, which is a really hard thing to do, because coupled with the fact I hate people, I don't like dealing with people, I like dogs. Dogs are fucking easy. Dogs are cool. They're fucking happy. They're always happy to see you. People are bastards. But at the same time, those people can unlock so many different things. So it's not what you know, it's who you know. Really, really is. And building up that mental resilience, I think, is a key factor to help with the hard times. Because I say that for me, that has been the eye opener, is having the hard times saved and bolstered by the mental resilience that I've managed to have. So even the sad times, I know we've had 45 days of consistent rain in the UK, fucking brutal. We've had dark mornings that are slightly getting lighter now, dark evenings that are slightly getting lighter. So we're edging towards the spring. That to me is when my happy time comes. I can get in the garden, I can start getting amongst nature, I can start fishing, walking, lake swimming, sea swimming, sup boarding, everything outdoorsy. I'm an outdoorsy guy. Get me the fuck out there right now. So thank you very much for listening. Hopefully I've given you maybe some tips and tricks in this little episode. So have an amazing time. Keep positive as much as you can. It's fucking hard. I'm trying to tell you it's hard. Don't worry. I know it's hard. That's what she said. But yeah, have a good time. Let's just keep on the positive track. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.